All right. I wouldn't look at this. ICE raids create NYC ghost towns as migrants hide. Okay. Whoa. Let's actually get into it and see what they're talking about.
We went to bodegas in Washington Heights, then came over here to the Bronx. Less money coming in, employees not showing up are some of the things that we heard. But for others, President Trump's immigration crackdown means bringing law and order.
So, with President Trump's immigration crackdowns underway, certain areas of town are a lot quieter than they used to be, with local store owners revealing a notable decrease in the amount of customers they're seeing, while saying some of their employees are scared they could be spotted by ICE and deported if they come to work. However, New York is not the only city in America where immigration activity is creating ghost towns, and it certainly might not be the last.
Promises made, promises.
How do they have a job? Like if they're not legal, they won't have paperwork or anything, so all right. Oh my god. Okay, let's
Kept, with President Trump taking immediate action on his top campaign focus, fighting illegal immigration. And as ICE closes in on migrants, once vibrant neighborhoods are now turning into ghost towns.
Suslin Pichardo, who manages a Bronx bodega, says fewer undocumented workers are showing up for their shifts and significantly less foot traffic. She calls it the 2025 pandemic, but this time an immigration pandemic.
There's a lot of criminals. Now streets is more safe. You can see, you can walk now.
Yeah, they be afraid. They be calling me and asking, Frank, are they gonna come to the store?
A lot of fear, says this man from Ecuador. It's the kind of fear humanitarians are pushing back on, especially those who...
Is the sound messing up? That sounded weird. Hold on. I'm sorry. Fucking bitch. Let me see some. No. Why did that pop up? I know. I thought I fixed it last week, but I guess not. I don't know.
who wish to protect the sanctuary.
Streets is more safe.
Manages a Bronx bodega, says fewer undocumented workers are showing up for their shifts and significantly less foot traffic. She calls it the 2025 pandemic, but this time an immigration pandemic.
There's a lot of criminals. Now streets is more safe. You can see, you can walk now.
Yeah, they be afraid. They be calling me and asking, Frank, are they gonna come to the store?
A lot of fear, says this man from Ecuador. It's the kind of fear humanitarians are pushing back on, especially those who wish to protect the sanctuary sentiment.
But the reality is 65% of Americans strongly support deporting immigrants convicted of violent crimes.
Some bodega owners are looking to hire employees, in this case documented employees, because they need to keep moving the economy.
So immigration crackdowns are causing mainstream political panic, with some suggesting they'll lead to a smoothie shortage. But what nobody in the open borders crowd wants you to remember is that 4 years ago,
What? Okay. Oh man, these people. Really? Look. I know a lot of people don't want immigrants in in the country, especially when they're illegal. Like for me, I'm like, yeah, they if they're not legal, don't have their papers, that's a problem. I can't see how people don't see that. Like all these bodegas and New York and stuff, and having all these immigrants that are working for them, like how do you not see like they they can take advantage of these people, like straight up they can take advantage of these people. They can pay them less, they can make them work harder, longer, and they have no real consequence for it because those immigrants, they can't go to the authorities. They can't call anybody up and be like, they can't do any of this, but you still want them here, like I oh my god, look, it's hard to watch and hard to see how people can accept this. Like watching these people, like I know there are probably some good people out there who, good business owner who probably pays these people decent well, but you have to understand, like majority of the people probably are just taking advantage of them, paying them less, making them work harder, like I said, and you know they they don't have to obey the regulations at all. Cause what are those immigrants gonna do to them? Nothing. They can't do anything unless they want to get, you know, deported. And like a lot of these jobs, people always bring up they're taking jobs that people want. Not really. I mean, they probably are taking some jobs that people could use. Yes, and probably want maybe, but why would these business owners pay a American citizen, hire American citizen when they know they have to pay them more and have to follow regulations, you know? And they can just go over there and hire a legal that can't do anything and they can just it's crazy, like, and people are complaining about smoothies. I mean, I know a lot of people aren't just complaining about smoothies and other things, but all of these jobs, like, I don't know. I'm just rambling on. I may sound crazy. I may be wrong, but this is just my opinion. Like, if they're not legal, they shouldn't be here. This period. I'm not saying all of them or most of them are criminals or anything, but even the people who aren't criminals, they are getting taken advantage of.
Smoothie shortage. But what nobody in the open borders crowd wants you to remember is that 4 years ago, before the largest migration event in U.S. history, we had a reasonably well-functioning country, which was a lot safer. Because it wasn't a hiding place for gang members and dangerous individuals, the very people Homeland Security is now after, with mass raids taking place in sanctuary cities all across the country. But these raids are turning certain New York neighborhoods into ghost towns, with business owners and residents saying the streets feel much quieter. But that brings up some uncomfortable questions and possibilities, like where did people living in the country without the right to work earn all of the money they were spending at these businesses? Were they earning money in a manner connected to the criminal underground by committing crimes, shoplifting, reselling stolen goods, or worse? And those businesses, by complaining to the news that immigration raids have scared away their employees, they've just admitted to illegally hiring and employing people who can't legally work and may be in the country without permission. Which brings us to the real reason why certain parts of New York are turning into ghost towns by allowing over 400,000 people to live in this city without permission to be in the U.S. An entire economic system has been created which is illegal and exploits everyone who's part of it. In fact, I spoke to one restaurant worker who said their boss was hiring newly arrived asylum seekers off the books for far below minimum wage so they could save money. On top of that, if you walk down the streets of our working class neighborhoods, you'll see unlicensed street vendors all over the place, some of whom sell products that still have the price tags on them from the stores they were stolen from, which get handed to them in suitcases by a group of men, making you wonder if some of them...
It's a chain reaction. They get hired. They hire these immigrants at probably far below minimum wage. Now, they can't afford to find a house because, they or pay rent to somebody to live in somebody's house and food and stuff. So, what now? Well, of course, they're going to steal, they're going to commit crimes to make up that money. It's a chain reaction. That's why I don't understand. Like, my thing is, if people really want to help, immigrants, escape from their country from any reason, why don't you go help on the border or try to help in a significant way to actually help, you know, instead of like talking and try to fucking, you know, mostly manipulate people. Why don't you just find a way to actually help these people? They probably need help down there at the border. What we have hundreds, thousands of people who need to be processed. Try to go get a job down there. You got, towns and cities for, asylum seekers and stuff. Go there and help. That's my thing. These people just like to talk and they don't like to actually help. Not everyone. I don't want to put everyone in the same boat, but a lot of people just talk and say how, you know, they should be here. It's wrong to kick them out. You know, we just want them to be here legally, to get vented, to get their paperwork, and that's it. You know, and you bitching about it, you want to keep fighting that they should stay here. Will actually help them out, help the people.
The people spreading out items on blankets are there by choice or not. But as you're about to see, even though immigration raids are putting an end to an illegal system of exploitation, predatory businesses and immigration advocates are very upset about it for some reason. So here we have your local bodegas, convenience stores, coffee shops, and restaurants. And in some parts of New York, businesses like these now complain that they've got staffing problems and customer problems at the exact same time. And they say it's because of a prevailing sense of fear in immigrant communities over recent Homeland Security activity. But if what these businesses say is true, and both the customers and employees at some of these places aren't supposed to be here, who exactly is benefiting from a system that is in violation of federal immigration law?
We went to bodegas in Washington Heights, then came over here to the Bronx. Less money coming in, employees not showing up are some of the things that we heard. But for Johan Mencias, ICE raids are already making a positive impact in our neighborhoods.
I know there's a lot of good people too, and I feel bad for them, but but it's gotta be done. We gotta clean up. I got two daughters. One of my daughters.
Wow, so as it turns out, the residents of this neighborhood do not benefit from businesses who break the law and hire people who aren't supposed to be.
See, the people who are against this, they don't live in these neighborhoods. Majority of people who always advocate like this is bad, they shouldn't be deported and stuff. They don't live in these neighborhoods. They don't live around what's actually going on. It's crazy, man. It is crazy. It's like a rich person talking about groceries and stuff and how much food costs. Do you really understand? Do you really understand? No. No, they don't live that life, you know? This is the same thing basically. Like people trying to advocate for these immigrants and stuff, they don't live in these neighborhoods. They don't see the crime, you know? They don't run these businesses who are trying to run a legitimate business, who aren't hiring immigrants and stuff. The people who are hiring immigrants, they're kind of they're in the wrong. Okay, let's just say it. They're in the fucking wrong. Okay, because they're just taking advantage of these people, and that sucks. That's fucking stupid. I'm against that. Don't take advantage of people. You know, that's just like with even with people that are illegally here, in like Ohio with the Haitian immigrants and stuff, and probably like other places stuff, these landlords taking advantage of these people, right? Because these people don't know better, and this is what blows my mind. Like, these immigrants come over here and they get their paperwork and everything, but then these landlords and everyone else takes advantage of them, make them pay this outrageous rent. Then guess who that affects? Affects them, the immigrants, of course, affects them, but it also affects the the citizens, the people who've been living in the U.S. for forever. It affects us too, because if immigrants are paying these high prices, well, guess what? These landlords and stuff aren't going to come down on us because of us. No, we got to pay the same exact price now. And we know it's overpriced and outrageous, but we can't do anything about it because landlords and stuff don't want to do anything about it. But it's like, how do we fix that? I really don't know how to fix that. Like, if you have a solution, put it in the comments. Let me know in chat. I don't know. I don't have a solution. Like, but maybe we need to hold landlords and stuff, more accountable for what they're doing, and knowing that's wrong. I'm not a business guy. I don't know exactly how to fix that, but it kind of sucks when you you can only rent a 2-bedroom house, a one bedroom house for like 15 to 2 to 3 grand. That's outrageous. That is outrageous.
Be in the country. And they're saying their neighborhoods now feel a lot safer because of these recent immigration crackdowns. But even though residents seem to be happy now, local businesses that were hiring these folks are not. But the crazy thing about that is by hiring people who don't have a right to work and paying them less than fair wages, those workers are being exploited, and so is the local neighborhood, which now has less jobs available for its residents. And how do we know that these businesses hiring people with no legal right to be in the country aren't holding that status over them or using it to coerce them to come into work in the first place, possibly as leverage to get them to work in unsafe, unsanitary conditions or do things they wouldn't otherwise? But there's another problem, because in New York you've got over 400,000 people who don't have a legal right to remain in America. Yet because this is a sanctuary city, they're allowed to do that, but they've got to get by somehow. They've got to work, they've got to buy food, clothing, provide for themselves. And they can only do this if groups are willing to help them break the law, and some of those groups are gangs. And one of these gangs, this Tren de Aragua from Venezuela, they've had a bunch of high-profile members taken down recently. But this is a gang that made its way to New York during the asylum crisis, where it's been growing its criminal reach by exploiting people who may have entered the country but can't live or work here in a legal manner, and now find themselves needing the help of criminals to get things like fake IDs or fake working papers, which they could be using to trick legitimate businesses into hiring them, revealing that even if companies don't knowingly hire people who aren't supposed to be here, they could still be forced to shut down if they do, which apparently might happen to some small businesses in certain parts of New York.
There's a lot of criminals. Now the streets is more safe. You can see, you can walk.
Suslin Pichardo, who manages a Bronx bodega, says fewer undocumented workers are showing up for their shifts and significantly less foot traffic. She calls it the 2025 pandemic, but this time an immigration pandemic.
So the manager of this one bodega in the Bronx says that this crackdown has turned New York City into what it was in 2020 when the streets were completely empty and desolate. That's quite a statement. But it also reveals that most of the business at her store was due to illegal activity, both on the part of the employees and the customers. And it also means that her store might not be able to stay open if that illegal activity disappears. Now look, I'm a business owner myself, and a store shutting down is never something anybody should be excited about. But if you've got a business and all of the people working there aren't supposed to be in the country and neither are the customers, who exactly...
I'm not excited for it. Like, I'm not like, woo, yeah, shut down. No, I'm not. No, but if you can't run your business legit, well, maybe you don't need a business. Not everybody's cut out for it. I'm just gonna say that if you can't hire people that are legal, who has the papers, or citizens of the United States, well, maybe maybe you just don't deserve that business because you just don't know how to run that kind of stuff. There's always people willing to work. People who live in the United States, who have their papers, who we're willing to find a job, and especially if you're willing to pay well, pay decent at least, you know. I work at a job. I mean, I don't get paid the best, right? If I Where I live, like gas station, McDonald's gets paid more than me, you know. But if you give me the hours I want, like shit, I like working the weekends. I love working like basically like 40 hours a weekend. I would do that. I would. I would go work at a gas station, whatever, you know. But if the problem is like a lot of these owners just they don't want to pay people that well. So therefore, like, do they really deserve their business?
Is benefiting from that business other than the owners? And how are all
Yeah.
of these customers who don't have legal work authorization able to afford the things in the store? They had to have been getting their money from somewhere, and these places are tiny. They can't employ 400,000 people, which means some of the business these stores were getting is related to criminal activity in other parts of the city. And there's no way around that. If somebody does not have legal work permission, the only way to get a job is to do it in an illegal way. And in some cases, that involves more than just working off the books. It involves shoplifting, which is a big problem in New York, because retail theft has been decriminalized, and there are markets all over town where people were just reselling stuff on the sides of the street. On top of that, you've got restaurants full of health code violations renting themselves out to people to just use. And apparently you've got people making food and selling it all over town, totally under the radar of the health department. And the restaurant in question here did not have a satisfactory inspection grade like this place does. In fact, soon after this article came out, it ended up getting shut down, which means people eating that food could have gotten sick. And if people are buying food prepared in an unsafe, unlicensed restaurant, that just hurts legitimate businesses like this while making the streets of these neighborhoods much less safe.
We are victims of those criminals.
Fernando Mateo says President Trump is making bodegas safer by doing what the criminal justice system has failed to do.
Now, if you've committed a crime, I recommend, other than enter the country illegally, that you look for another place to work. Because if they come looking for you...
So this guy right here, he's the president of the United Bodega Workers of America, and every time something happens in New York that's controversial involving a bodega, he's there to stick up for these people. Every time they get robbed, every time they get raided, every time criminals enter their stores and assault workers. And he says the stores he represents are victims of crime committed by people who aren't supposed to be here. And that's the problem that sanctuary cities have. They're okay with criminal activity as long as it's federal, but they don't seem to understand that by allowing one type of crime, they expose themselves to other types as well. And residents of the Bronx and Washington Heights can attest to this. They're out there saying that their streets were dangerous, all because illegal activity allowed and empowered a criminal element to dig in its heels and take over. And empowering criminals hurts the law-abiding in ways that are less obvious but are very real for the people affected by them. And if jobs are being given away to people so businesses can break the law and save money, that's something we need to talk about, because it means that these businesses are taking job opportunities away from people who have to obtain them in a by-the-books manner.
Some bodega owners are looking to hire employees, in this case documented employees, because they need to keep moving the economy. In the Bronx, I'm Eliezer Marte.
So look at that. These businesses, now that their employees won't come to work, they've decided that they're going to obey the law and hire people who are on the books, which is going to be good news for people who need their first job and can't get it. And while the immigration activist crowd is out there protesting these raids as being cruel and unnecessary, these very same activists never protested businesses who exploited their workers at the expense of the law-abiding who they wouldn't hire. However, the open borders crowd is very upset about this, and they've got no intention of staying quiet about it, even though it benefits the very people trying to make it in America, immigrants, who they claim they're advocating for. So as a sanctuary city, New York is in a very strange place. Yes, these ICE raids are getting dangerous individuals, criminals, gang members off our streets. But you've got an entire group of people here who are very proud of New York's sanctuary city status, probably because they don't understand how much harm it's doing. But nonetheless, these are people who are very upset that any of this activity here is taking place, and they want it to stop.
Deportations undermine city families, they undermine city communities, and they undermine public safety. And so what our laws say is that the city is going to divorce itself from what it sees as misguided federal immigration enforcement efforts.
So this professor on the news describing this viewpoint of sanctuary city protections, maybe he holds it himself, maybe he doesn't, but the fact of the matter is, it's the working class neighborhoods that are experiencing most of the crime related to all of what we're talking about today. And none of the gang activity plaguing the Bronx or Washington Heights is present in places like Cobble Hill or the West Village. And these raids and crackdowns are something that people who live in these neighborhoods are very happy about. And while activists are out there talking about how terrible these raids are, none of the people who live in these neighborhoods are listening to them. And some of the people taken down in these raids are extremely dangerous. They've been caught trying to buy military-grade assault weapons. And this gang activity is certainly not a mystery to New York's leaders. They know that a lot of gang-related activity is taking place in shelters like the Randall's Island facility that is in the process of being shut down. You'll find wanted posters outside, and the city knows there are gang members living in these places, taking them over, co-opting them. But because this is a sanctuary city with a right to shelter, the city has plans right now to open a new 2,200 person shelter in the Bronx while all of this immigration related activity is taking place in that very same neighborhood.
Any of these immigrants that we speak about tonight have been properly screened.
Tough questions from Mayor Eric Adams' staff here at this contentious Bronx Community Board 1 meeting.
I'm living this. I'm seeing this.
Things got worse when the mayor's chief of staff revealed the decision to open a 2,200 bed.
So I can answer the first guy's question. It's a no. Nobody gets screened at all. The city's not doing background checks before it moves people into its shelters. That's how you've got gang members living down the hall in some cases from families with little kids. And since we're a sanctuary city with a right to shelter, that automatically means that nobody can be denied that right regardless of past or current criminal activity. That's how these dangerous gangs were able to make their way into these shelters in the first place. Nobody checked to see if they were thugs. And after this place opens, because this is a sanctuary city, the police will not be allowed inside it to keep it safe and make sure there aren't gang members operating openly with weapons. But by advocating for a halt to any immigration crackdowns in New York, these advocates fail to realize that they're advocating against protecting people who do have a valid reason to be here. Some of the asylum seekers in these shelters do have valid claims, but by allowing gang members and criminals to live next to them, everyone's in danger. And now things are so bad, criminal activity is spilling out of these shelters into our neighborhoods, with gang members committing crime all over town and exploiting people. On top of that, New York does not have unlimited shelter space, which means that some of these facilities are housing gang members while people who could be legitimate asylum seekers are out sleeping in tents on the street somewhere.
A lot of fear, says this man from Ecuador. It's the kind of fear humanitarians are pushing back on, especially those who wish to protect the sanctuary sentiment.
We've been dealing with hysteria of mass deportation, of people feeling that any local law enforcement...
So this guy from Ecuador who partially showed his face on the news, is he here legally? Because if he is, he's got nothing to worry about. But if he thinks he's not here legally, he probably isn't, and he could be at risk for getting deported. But even though we've got advocates that are scaring people with this thought of mass deportations, when Trump took office, ICE only had around 6,000 agents who could even act in a deportation capacity. The resources simply are not there to deport millions of people from America. And even though ICE is now allowed to enter sensitive areas like schools, hospitals, churches, that's not what's happening. Federal agents are not camped up outside of an elementary school. Instead, the reason ghost towns are popping up in this city is because of targeted removals of people who are dangerous and also have orders of removal from this country and are here profiting at the expense of the law-abiding. What do you think about that? Are these raids in New York City having a positive effect on neighborhoods that were previously taken over by criminals? Are people in the country unlawfully forced to subject themselves to the criminal underworld in some fashion to get by? And does that empower and embolden people who put all of us in danger? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Good video. I'm not subscribed to him. Okay. Subscribe to him if you want. Give him a like. But that's a very
Make us safer by doing what the
like I just don't understand how people can allow these people to break the rules. You know, we have a rule to get in this country. Just have to get paperwork, wait, get vetted, and be fine. People are like, no, just let them stay. Then they let these, these store owners just take advantage of these people and say nothing. Don't protest that at all. Why? It doesn't make any sense. These store owners take advantage of these people. Then these people have to, do criminal activities and stuff to survive because they're not getting paid enough because these people are taking advantage of them. It doesn't make any sense. Like, come on, man. Like I said before, if you really want to help, how about you go down there and help these people get their paperwork and get all this stuff. Like, I know you probably have to go to school for it, but try to get something done. Try to actually help them instead of getting on Twitter or the internet and be like, this is wrong. These people deserve to be here. No, they're human people too. This is wrong. No. Help them. Help them stay here. Help them get their paperwork. Do something useful. These people, a lot of them are getting taken advantage of. And you're not saying anything about that. Like, it's crazy. I'm done. I just can't do it anymore.